Welcome back, Sam.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for the information you provided us in regards to how to start the estate planning. What's the first step after making an appointment with an attorney that we need to do to start the estate planning process?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a lot of good information in this Boys and Girls Club tax and estate planning guide, so I'll kind of talk a little bit about what it's saying and my opinion as well. But it talks about making the appointment with the attorney, and being an attorney, I guess I'm biased a little bit, but there's a lot of really important reasons people don't realize to, a sort of a self-prepared will versus working with an attorney. A lot of services, if someone's not an attorney, they can't provide legal advice. So there's a lot of things that come up that you may not even realize about the efficiency of gifts, things like that. So, of course, being an attorney, we'd always recommend working with an attorney, but at least call an attorney, schedule an appointment, see if that's the best option for you. That's the first step, like you mentioned. But then it's important to kind of know what you have. So it doesn't have to be, like when we work with a client, I don't need you to go to the county and gather your property records or to give me 10 years worth of bank statements. We just need to know generally what you have and what type of assets you have and where they are. Because obviously, we are planning for a little bit of a moving target. It's very rare that someone has fixed assets. Accounts tend to grow, values tend to change. So, but we don't have to be perfect, but a good general idea of what do we have, where is it, and generally, what do we think the value might be. And then it's important to know, what you would want to happen. So, who would your beneficiaries be? What, are we planning for certain people? Are we planning for organizations? That makes a big impact on how we want to, what we want to assign to which beneficiary, things like that, to be efficient about our giving, rather than, assigning someone an asset that's going to have a ton of tax liability, whereas a charitable organization may not have that same liability. And then, it's important to know generally the gross value of what the estate would be. That's a little bit of a moving target as well. So our estate tax limits are set by legislature. So, and I should say exemptions rather than limits. So right now, it's for an individual, it's a very high limit. So we don't have estate taxes kicking in most states until we reach that federal exemption, which is currently about $13 million. But that may very well, it will change to some degree at the end of 2025. We don't know what that will look like yet, but it's important kind of, if we anticipate that there may be something of a estate tax problem, that we're keeping up with what that limit is. Generally it's something in the millions of dollars before we're paying estate taxes, but again, it fluctuates. Currently it's indexed for inflation, so every year we have a little bit of a change. And then we see here in the brochure, it's also talking about considering other estate planning documents. So in a comprehensive estate plan, there's more to it than just who gets what. We also want to make sure we have a comprehensive plan so that the person would be cared for if they become incapacitated. So we're very likely going to be talking about, if you couldn't make decisions for yourself, who would you want to make financial decisions for you? Who would you want to make healthcare decisions for you? Things like that. So you want to consider not just, I want this person to get this. It's like, okay, well, who do I want to be involved in the plan for a variety of different jobs, both financial and personal, for healthcare and things like that.
Could also be for dependents and the like, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Who's going to care for children, pets, things like that. And then, like I mentioned, it talks about medical decisions. So, that one's tough for a lot of people to make, tough to decide, okay, if there was no reasonably foreseeable or no treatment that would be reasonably foreseeable to bring about recovery, if I was just being kept alive artificially, what should we do? Should we continue life support? That's a tough one, and tough for people to make that decision. But if it's tough for us to make that decision for ourselves, think about how much harder it would be for someone else to make that decision on your behalf. So a lot of people don't like to talk about that stuff and think about that stuff, but It's so important and so much easier than someone else just being in that position all of a sudden. They didn't ask for that job, and all of a sudden they have to make that decision on your behalf. A couple other important things it talks about following through on estate planning. So once we have an estate plan in place, it's important to make sure that we're connecting assets properly and lining them up with that plan. So a lot of times that comes down to making sure, if we're talking about real property, someone's house, that the house is properly titled to the trust. Sometimes we see, maybe we set up an estate plan years ago, and then a few years went by and someone refinanced the property and took the house out of the trust, forgot to put it back in. We see that a lot of times. So make sure that we have both aligned assets with the trust and kept them in the trust and the estate plan in general. A lot of times that might mean updating beneficiaries on various accounts. So sometimes we might be naming the trust as a beneficiary, a payable on death beneficiary to receive an asset when someone passes away. Other times part of the plan might be, we'll take a retirement account, for example. Maybe we just want to make a charitable organization the beneficiary of that account. So that account, it's on record with the financial institution that is to be paid to the organization if something happens to the owner. It may not even pass through the trust. We may just be aligning our beneficiaries with the greater plan, but it can be very specific to the person's individual goals. So we want to make sure that has happened, that has stayed intact, that we didn't roll over a 401k to a different institution that now doesn't have those beneficiaries on record anymore. Just keeping up and making sure that everything is lined up the way it's supposed to be there.
The devil's definitely in the details and all this, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and then we see a lot of times, the brochure here talks about making sure that we store our estate plan in a safe place. So to us, I've seen it all with, my attorney's office kept my estate plan. I'm like, really? Okay, where's the office? Well, he retired about 12 years ago. I don't know. So making sure that we know where the estate plan is, that it is in a safe place, that it's not, in the box in the basement that's been getting moldy for the past few years. Today, normally it's important to maintain the original, but we also like to make sure that there's a digital backup somewhere just in case. We've seen trusts that have been revoked and people never took the assets out of the trust, and we have a whole different set of problems. So definitely, it should go without saying, but it's important to put eyes on the physical documents at least every 1, 2, 3 years, just on a regular basis. So a decade doesn't go by. That's a good question. I wonder where those ended up ultimately.
Yeah, statistically, freewills.com said that 70% of Americans have not updated their wills and trusts.
Oh yeah,
you're seeing that.
Absolutely. And a lot of times, you'll have major life or family circumstances that change. Maybe there was a divorce, maybe, there's more children or more grandchildren now. And so, I think, my will, I don't know where it is, but I think it leaves everything to the ex-spouse or things like that. So it's important to, a lot of times it's easy to forget about, but important to make sure that we keep up with it and we at least make contact with our estate plan on a somewhat regular basis. But then, probably one of the last things I'll touch on, I just mentioned reviewing your estate plan regularly. At least every 2 to 3 years, just I'd say give it a read, make sure there isn't something like, oh yeah, I named Bob down the street as trustee, but he moved to Costa Rica. That's probably not a good idea. So it's a good idea, even if it's boring, maybe you're having trouble sleeping at night, at least pull out the estate plan, take a look at it, make sure it still lines up with life circumstances and goals, and that the people and assets involved in your estate plan still match up with what you'd want to happen.
If you'd like some more information in regards to our tax and estate planning guide, please contact us at bgcec.planned.gifts. Sam, do you have any more information you can pass on that you can provide us?
Yeah, well, if anyone feels like they could use our assistance and has some questions about estate planning, best way to get in touch is www.mcgovernlawgroup.com. That's our website, or search for Mcgovern Law Group. We'd be happy to help.
Thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you,
Sam.
Forrest.